So, our subject matter for this evening is a history of the Bible. When we speak about a history of the Bible, um, eh, the history of the Bible and the history of the scriptures, they're really two different things. So, we're dealing with a history of the Bible. And again, a history of the Bible and the history of the scriptures are really two different things, completely different things. Unfortunately, because we're a people who have inherited many great lies, as I continue to say time and time again, because as a people, we are a people who have inherited many great lies. Much confusion persists between the Bible and the scriptures. And to be truthful, family, to be truthful, Yasharal, when it comes to the scriptures, Yahuah has been good to reveal quite a bit to us. But the truth of the matter is, I do believe that much of our history, because the scriptures is our history and it is our heritage, and so eat the crumbs that falls from the tables of our captors when it comes to the scriptures. And so even in what we have, in many cases, much of what is needed we really do not have access to, because those who rule over us possess them, they have them, and they give to us what they feel is necessary for us to have, and they withhold what they feel is necessary to withhold. But nonetheless, the time will come when Yahuah will reveal all things, because all things hidden must come to light. You see, and what is whispered in the ear, what is whispered, what is spoken in secret will be proclaimed from the rooftops. And so it's just a matter of time until absolute truth is revealed. And so in the meantime, we continue to seek Yahuah for guidance and for him to direct us and for him to give us understanding based on what we have available to us. And so even with what we have available to us, it's important for us to approach with caution, because the lying pens of the scribes have certainly had their way with what we have before us. And so this evening, we're looking at a history of the Bible, and I want to emphasize the importance of us understanding that the Bible is not the scriptures. The Bible is not the scriptures. The Bible is a book, as I've said before, written by Europeans for Europeans. The Bible, I want to say this, the Bible is a book, a corrupted translation of the scriptures, in which the names of the people of the scriptures were removed. The names of the Creator was removed and replaced with the names of pagan deities, and named after men also. And it's a book written by Europeans for Europeans. That's what the Bible is. There is no doubt about that. I mean, all you have to do is study the teachings of Christianity, and you will find that to be so. Study the history of the Bible, and you will find that to be so. And we're going to cover some of that history this evening. When we study Christian history, one of the things that we have to keep in mind is that some common things that you're going to come across, some common titles, phrases, and words that you'll come across that was used intentionally to deceive and to mislead uh, the true people, the people to whom the history belonged, the people from whom their history and their identity was stripped. In writing history, or in the whitewashing of history, the Christians, what they did was they would use terms like Jews and Christians in reference to the people of the book. They use terms like Jews and Christians in reference to the people of the book. They further go on, even in many cases, to suggest that even as they proclaim the Jews to be the people of the book, which the Jews are not the people of the book, but they further go on to proclaim that the Creator have replaced the Jews, who are supposed to be the people of the book, with the Christians. And so now the Christians are the people of the book, and the Christians have been given full authority to interpret the book and have been tasked with the tasked with the work of proclaiming the message of the book. And so, with that assumption by the Christian, they have wasted no effort in rewriting the book, seeking to present the book from a Christian perspective, which is most certainly a corrupt perspective. And so, even this evening, as we look at history, we will see some of these things as we read through history. They might seem confusing initially, but I ask Yahuah to help me to clarify as we read, to make things clear, to point things out for those who may even later listen to these recordings. And so may Yahuwah favor us as we go through this. I want to begin this evening with an article that Akut Al Yashaba shared with me. And I thought that it was an interesting article. There lies, because of the way things are written, there lies within it some confusion, and we hope to bring some clarification to the confusion. It comes from a wrong presupposition, so to speak. But we're gonna go to that. I'm gonna be sharing it on the screen here, and that's where we'll begin. But we have a lot of things to cover, and so this is just the beginning point, and hopefully we will be able to cover much of what uh, we have before us this evening. When we hear the term New Testament, unfortunately, there are people who have, even not being in the church, they have come out of the church, and that they continue to believe that the Bible is the word of Yahuwah. And most people who yes, and they believe the new replaced the old and so forth. But the fact of the matter is, the truth is, family, the truth is that there is no New Testament and there is no Old Testament. There is no New Testament and there is no Old Testament. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more as we go on. But it's important for us to understand that there is no New Testament and there is no Old Testament. Those things was given to us by Christianity. Those things were given to us by Christian so-called theologians. Okay? And the idea is, the reason why they give you the titles of New Testament and Old Testament is for the very reason that Akeem Franklin just pointed out, which is to say that the new replaces the old. The new replaces the old. That's the whole idea. In some of the history that we'll look at this evening, you will see that the Romans were competing with the people of Yasharal for position concerning the scriptures. They wanted to, which certainly they have really spared no effort in doing. But for the longest time, and from times of old, while they ruled over our land, they wanted to declare themselves to be the people who replace the people of the book. Okay, and so they jockeyed for what you would call, I guess, the replacements. Yes, for a position, you see. And so there was a competition. There was competition between the people of Yasharal, perhaps you could say, and the people and the Christians who now seek to rewrite the text to make it seem as if somehow the text was addressed to them, or that they have some kind of order from the creator that says that they are just as much or even more, yes, entitled perhaps is a better word. And so we'll see that as we look through some of this history. Now I want to begin with this. So the origins of the New Testament. So keep in mind, family, as we consider the terminology Old Testament and New Testament. I'm saying this again because it's very important. Because oftentimes when people attack the New Testament and the Old Testament, people of Yahuah becomes defensive. You see? Or sometimes it may not even be an attack. Sometimes it's just exposing the truth. But because we do not put a distinction, or we do not understand the distinction between the testaments and the scriptures, then we could find ourselves defending something that we really should not be defending, you see. So one of the things that I want us to really pay attention to is the fact that the New Testament, the so-called New Testament, it's not something that was given to us by Yahuah, or even something that was written by uh, the taught ones of Yahuah. And so it's important to keep that in mind. Now we're going to get into some more details concerning that in a little bit. And the Old Testament, certainly, that name did not come from Yahuah. What Yahuah gave to his people was his Torah, and all of Scripture is his Torah, because Torah means his instructions. Nonetheless, we're going to begin reading from this article, and as we go along, we're going to discuss some things as we go along. And now this, again, the title here, The Forged Origins of the New Testament by Tony Bushby. It says Spanish version, March 2007, extracted from Nexus Magazine, Volume 14, Number 4, June to July 2007, from Nexus Magazine's website. This is where this article comes from. It says, in the 4th century, the Roman Emperor Constantine united all religious factions under one composite deity, and ordered the compilation of new and old writings into a uniform collection that became the New Testament. I'm going to read that one more time. In the 4th century, the Roman Emperor Constantine, so in the 4th century, which would be 300 something, namely 325, what they call AD, but I don't go by that title, so I'll go by CE, Common Era. So 325 CE to be exact, Common Era. In the 4th century, the Roman Emperor Constantine united all religious factions under one composite deity and ordered the compilation of new and old writings into a uniform collection that became the New Testament. Now, right here, we have a problem, because the truth of the matter is that it would sound as if Constantine became, for lack of a better terminology, the religious ruler of all people, the Christians and the people of Yasharal. And somehow it would seem, based on the presentation, that the people of Yasharal was fine with that. Okay? Yes, that he became the peacemaker, the unifier, and Yasharal and the Christians now got along under Constantine. Of course, from the writings of these historians, you will not see Yasharal. What you're going to see constantly mentioned are the Jews, which is not true. It's actually false. It's totally false. The Jews did not come into the picture until around the 8th century, was when the Jews came into the picture. That's when Yasharal, who had come out of the Babylonian captivity, rather than some of them, rather than going back home, they headed northwards into the Caucasus Mountains, and they settled there, and they settled there for hundreds of years. And then in the 8th century, which would be around the 700s, the Khazarian king sought to make an allegiance with them, and so that's how the Jews joined themselves to the people of Yasharal, adopted the customs of the people of Yasharal to some degree, mixed it in with their stuff, and begin then to add to um, our customs, our writings, and heritage. And so the Jews did not come into the picture until around the 8th century, which is some 400 years after Constantine. Okay? So it says that Constantine unified religious denominations or different peoples of that time. All right. Now, so we see the error in that really the people of Yasharal, while some of them, even before Constantine, long before Constantine, going back to hundreds of years before Mashiach, our people, the people of Yasharal, desired to live according to the ways of the Greeks and the Romans, and so many of our people were living according to their ways. We see this in the book of Maccabeus, the books of Maccabeus, for example. So some did, some readily capitulated, but not everybody did. You see. And so they set about to, if you would not willingly convert or to line up with their way, then they were going to forcibly make you line up. So they would put you to the sword, they would burn you on the stakes, whatever. They would feed you the lions, they would put you in the arenas to fight each other to the death, and so on and so forth, as a way to force you to now serve their sun deities. So the author of this bit of information is a man called Tony Bushby, as mentioned before, an Australian, became a businessman and entrepreneur early in his adult life. He established a magazine publishing business and spent 20 years researching, writing, and publishing his own magazines, primarily for the Australian and New Zealand markets. With strong spiritual beliefs and an interest in metaphysical subjects, he was a Christian. Tony has developed long relationships with many associations and societies throughout the world that have assisted his research by making their archives available. He is the author of The Bible Fraud, 2001, reviewed in Nexus 8:6, with extracts in Nexus 9:1 to 03, 901 to 2003. The Secret in the Bible, another book, 2003, reviewed in 1102, with extract Ancient Cities Under the Sands of Giza in 1103, and The Crucifixion of Truth, 2005, reviewed in 1202, 2002, and The Twin Deception, 2007, reviewed 1403. So that's a little bit about the author of this article, and obviously you see he's written quite a few books on the subject. Okay, so that's about the author. I'll begin as he begins. What the church doesn't want you to know. What the church doesn't want you to know.